Hey there, sweet friends. This is Gina. Welcome to the Rebookery channel. I am going to share what I have done so far in this journal that I showed you guys. I've already made two videos. I showed you how I did the cover, and then I showed you how I set up the pages. This is my, I'm calling it my Light, Love, and Happiness journal. So since the last video, I have bulked this up quite a bit. And if you recall, this was a Junior Service League cookbook with this spine, like this spiral binding type thing. And I probably removed 2/3 of the pages, if not more. So it was like really skinny with this big fat spine. Once I put the pages together and I washied down the side, in the next video, I showed you how I washed the pages with paint and how I added some decorations, and then I used up my hoard of like journaling spot stickers. And so once I did all of that, I started putting in all of the things that I wanted to go in this journal. So I'll just flip through and show you a little bit of what I've gotten in here. And the premise for this journal is that as millions of people around the world struggle with mental health, they struggle with depression and anxiety and lots of other mental health issues. I am one of those people, and it has been a long journey for me throughout my life, and I've finally gotten to a place where I know that I have the power to do some things to help myself and to help my mental well-being. So without getting too deep into this, I realized that I need a place where I can put nothing but light, love, and happiness. And I don't want any burdens. I don't want any regrets. I don't want any sad. I don't want any, oh, I wished I had done it this way, or maybe it could be better this way. I don't want anything new and improved. I want just the happiest, the lightest, and the most lovely things that have happened in my life in this journal. Now, people have asked me, you know, why not put this in your planner where you see it every day? And that is a beautiful suggestion, and you could absolutely do this. Why not put this in a journal that you've already started? You could absolutely do this too. There are no rules when it comes to this. But for me personally, I wanted a separate place, and here was why. Because when I get to a low point or I get to a dark part, as we do, you know, it's ebb and flow. You're not constantly happy. I want to go to something that I know is going to give me solace. And I know that if I go to this one thing, I know that everything that I've put in here is full of light, love, and happiness. And this is just a strategy that I am going to use to help get myself cognitively and emotionally, spiritually more positive, I guess is the word I want to say. Now, you can do, there's no rules with this. You can set this up however you want. You can make it be something that is already started as a journal. You can incorporate it into your planner. You can do however you want. That's the thing. Make this about your happiness. So I decided that my three things I was going to focus on were light, because I want things to be light and not heavy. I also could interpret light as I want it to be light and bright, not dark, because if you are a person that suffers from any type of mental illness, you know that there are dark times and then there are light times. There are situations that can be very heavy and there are situations that can be very light. So I wanted to keep this light. I also wanted love. Anything to me that meant love, like something I loved, people I love, things that I did that I loved. Anytime I have a memory of something and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was my favorite time, that's the type of stuff that I want to go in here. And then the happiness is up to your interpretation. For me, happiness does not mean I'm laughing and giggling and haha, it's so funny, that type of happiness. Happiness to me just means calm. It means peace. It means being okay with situations, being even. And so you can set this up however you want. You can choose words that will fit whatever you want this journal to be, and you interpret it however you want to, because this is for you. This journal is not for anybody else except for my eyes, and your journal, if you're making one like this journal is for your eyes. And it is to bring you whatever it is you want from this journal. So for me, this is going to bring me light, love, and happiness. So once I went through and I set up my pages, I just started grabbing things that I wanted to put in here. And one of the things I wanted to do was add some envelopes and some flaps, because I know that I like to stick things in like pockets, and I like to journal here, and I like to journal here. And so what I did was I have a collection of some envelopes and some mail that came from both sets of my grandparents. So it came from my mother's parents and came from my father's parents. And I have those envelopes and I love them. They're so meaningful to me. And so I just went through and I added a bunch of their envelopes. Then I just randomly went through one of my boxes of just, they're weird photos, like they're not in any order. They're just like photos that I had extras of, and I just threw in this box, and I just started pulling out photos, either favorite photos or photos that reminded me of a favorite time. And I started putting those things in. And then I just thought about stories. What were some things, what were some memories, what were some stories that bumped into my brain as soon as I thought of these things, and I started to jot little things down. So those are the things that I've added, and let me walk you through and show you what I have so far. And by the way, this journal is not nearly done. I just got started, and I want to put lots of time into this journal. Like, I want to hold on to this journal for a long time. I want this to ooze with all kinds of goodness. So I will flip through and I'll kind of show you what I have on the pages. So on this first page, I found a photograph of some art that I had done, and this makes me happy. So I cut it up, I stuck it there, I have some stickers. This is an envelope from my great grandma, and inside it, this was really cool. When I was going through it, inside it there was a little note, and it must not be this one. There's one back here and it has a little note, so I kept the note in there. And then just added some paper, some fabric. Here I started to write out just random things that came into my head, and I don't necessarily need a picture for each one of them. It's just the story. It's the feeling I get from the story, and the story can be told with words, or the story can be told with pictures, or the story can be told with things that remind me of it. So this is just some stories that I jotted down. If I happen to find pictures or something that will work as a visual for this, I will go ahead and add those in a little bit later. And how I'll add them in, I'm just gonna have to get creative. And that's kind of what makes journaling so fun for me, is like piecing it together and figuring out, well, I have this much space, so how would I fit in pictures to document this? And I'll get creative, and that'll make it even better. So this is an envelope, again, from my great grandma. And then just some more. And notice I put it in the journaling space here, but down here I just kind of wrote on just, just the blank page. There were no lines or anything. Here I kind of put a little bubble around it, so you can draw attention to them, or you can just write on the page. This one, I had a picture, so it went with this story. And honestly, I don't even know that this picture is the same day as the story, but it's nonetheless, it's the same place, and it brings back that memory. I have a picture that I want to put in here, but I haven't done it yet. This is an envelope from my grandparents when they owned their donut shop, and it's a bank envelope, and it's really thick. And so I just put this in with some washi tape so I can add things to it. I can journal here, I can journal here. Here were those circles that I made with the plastic Jello container, and so they make great little journaling spots. And I happen to have a picture of some pancakes and I knew that these pancakes went with this story. It might not have been the exact same night, but it was pancakes nonetheless. And so I stuck it in next to this this little story. And you can see I didn't have a lot of room, so what I did was I just outline cut the main focus, which was the pancakes. So story, and then the story actually went down here. Story, I wrote it a little bit differently. If I find pictures, I'll throw those in. So this is a story, another story. This was just like, it's not even a story. It's just like this happened. So this year we had 11 snow days for school, and that makes me very happy. This is a photo. I know I want to use it, and I'm going to put it here somehow, but I just haven't figured out what I'm putting on the back because I want to add another photo because I know I have lots of photos about this story. So I've just tucked this in, and I'll figure out how I'm going to put it in a little bit later. So here is another phrase where I was just talking about this is a certain time. And I know I have lots of photos I want to add here if I can figure out how to put them in. These were some pictures that I had. I'd already done this in my journal, but these were extra pictures I had about this same thing. So that's another thing, guys. These might be things that I've already journaled about, or if they're really a long time ago, they might be things I've already scrapbooked about, and that is a-okay. There's no rule that says you can only document one thing and only document it one time. That's not a rule. That's not even a good rule. That's like silly. You can document whatever you want, how many times you want, and from different perspectives or different focus on different aspects. So this was just one of my favorites, and I had some extra pictures, and so I put those in, wrote about it. This is a story. This is a story. I know I have pictures to go with those, so when I find those someday, I'll just put them in. This is a cool little envelope, and it's Montgomery Ward. And so if you've watched my videos before, you know that Montgomery Ward, growing up in the 70s and 80s, Montgomery Ward's store was my jam. And I spent so much time at Montgomery Ward's. That's where I bought all my clothes and got all my Christmas presents every year, was from Montgomery Ward's or the Montgomery Ward's catalogs. So this is a favorite, and I cut the edge off of this little envelope, so now it becomes a pocket. This is just a like a insulator that goes around my coffee cup, and this was a coffee place and I just got this a couple weeks ago. This is a photo of some coffee that I took a long time ago because I just thought it was so darn cute, and so I put a memory with this. This maybe isn't the story that goes with this particular cup of coffee, but the whole thing works, and I love it, and it makes me very happy. And then I have room for another story right here. Over here, this is my son, my middle son, when he was very young, and it was all about his Speedos. And when I see these pictures, it just makes my heart jump. I just love it. So I stuck that in, and I just did fussy cutting around the picture again because I don't have a lot of space. So I'm gonna just do some weird cuts to make it fit in the space. So this was a really important day in my life. And for this is actually an envelope that I sent to my stepfather, and I put it on here because one, his birthday was right around the time that the solar eclipse happened, and two, this was I had those really cool heat activated solar eclipse stamps, and so I stuck that on. And then what I did was I just opened up the envelope, so now I can tuck a story in, or I can tuck pictures in from that day, and then I have room for some stories right here. This is just blank, waiting to have some stuff added to it. This was an envelope that was like a birthday envelope that was birthday card that was sent to my grandma a long time ago. And so I like the envelope, and I stuck it in because it makes me happy because it reminds me of my grandma. But I also ran across some transparencies, and these little transparencies, they were actually in the recycling bin at school, but I noticed that this one had a St. Louis arch. Well, I happen to have a really favorite memory of my kids when they were little, going to the St. Louis arch. And so I stapled that on here, and I know I'm gonna go find those pictures, and I'm gonna stick them in, and then I'm gonna write down what that favoriteest time is at the St. Louis arch. Then here, these are two different stories, completely unrelated. Here's lots of places for stories. This was a story, and I happened to have an extra picture, so I put that in. I made it a flap, and then I can actually glue something else on the back of this. So I can put another photo, or I can put another story. So paper dolls, this is just one of my favoritist things is paper doll clothing. And it actually, the story about these paper doll clothing pieces actually goes with this day. So it just kind of worked out. I put them in on 2 different days, and it just kind of worked out that they came together. So these are all different stories. This is just a list, and I'm going to see if I have pictures. This is from a really long time ago, so I don't even know if I'll have pictures. This is the library in my hometown. That is one of my most favoritist places in the whole wide world. And just a couple of weeks ago, my husband and I went through town, and we actually stopped and went into the library. It'd been probably, oh my gosh, 15 years since we'd been in the library, and we both loved that library growing up. And I took some pictures, so I know I'm going to put pictures on this page of this library. This is a picture from Christmas, and so I just was like, oh, one of my favorite things about Christmas, I don't like wrapping presents, but I do love stuffing stockings. Taste of Home, oh my goodness, Taste of Home magazine. This was my jam probably 15 years ago. So I would get Taste of Home magazine once a month, and then I would go through and I would pick out what we were going to have. I would plan, because my kids were little, so I would plan, here's what we're going to have every night this week. And we had a chalkboard in our kitchen, and so we would write down the menu on the chalkboard. And so the kids would come home and they would know what's for dinner. I would know when we went grocery shopping, and I miss this, and this makes me happy. And so I just found a ripped page from Taste of Home magazine, stuck it on there, and then just wrote a little bit of story. This was just a random picture of my youngest when he was really little, but this t-shirt was what I wanted to document, because this t-shirt belonged to my daughter, and then my middle son wore it, and then my youngest son wore it. This was a school picture from my son. This was some pictures of us ice skating, and so then here's the story that goes with that. Totally unrelated. Here's another story about something totally different, and I might see if I can find some pictures that go with that. So here's the little envelope I was telling you about that had a little note in it. Now, I don't know who Maud is, but this was my great grandma. So Maud must have been someone related to my great grandma. I'm not for sure, but I thought it was cool that that note was in there, and so I left it in there. Again, here's another transparency. This transparency is of the Hoover Dam, which is one of my favoritist places. I've only been there once, but I love it. I'm obsessed with hydroelectric dams. Anyway, so the story I wrote is not about the Hoover Dam. It's about Truman Dam, which is actually not very far from where I live, and we have spent a lot of time at Truman Dam. When my kids were little, it only took us a half hour to get there. My husband and I just went biking there not too long ago. So I just stapled this transparency of Hoover Dam. I wrote a story about another dam, but here's what's going to go on this page. I have a picture, and I'm going to have to go find it. I have a picture of my husband and I when we went to Las Vegas when I graduated college. So this was a long time ago. It's like 24 years ago. And we have a picture of him standing in Nevada and I'm standing in Arizona, and we're kissing. I got to find that picture, and I'm going to put it here because it was taken at Hoover Dam, and that's one of my most favoritist memories. And I was like so young in that picture, so I really need to find it. This is a picture that I had just of my daughter, and again, it's not about really her, it's about the t-shirt. But then what I did was I just went ahead and added some more things about her in this entire part right here. So the t-shirt was the focus, but then I added more things about her. And then this is a completely different story about something completely different. Here's one of those where I had a lot of pictures. So I just made, oh, I guess that's not a flap. I just made a flap, and then, excuse me. And then on this, I just added, I was taking pictures that day with it was one of those weird cameras. It wasn't a pinhole camera. It was something else. and it would do double pictures. I can't even remember now. But anyway, so I went ahead and added those. And then this is all about one day. Now, I have totally journaled about this. I've even made a scrapbook layout about this. But it was so fun, and it was such an important part of my life because it was just an amazing day that I'm going to add another entry in another journal about this because it's just that important. So here's a story that I don't know if I'll ever find pictures for. Here is another story. This is just one of those envelopes that I cut in half so I can stick stuff inside and I can journal on either side. This is, I didn't have any pictures of this, but these are some stickers that I had in my classroom, and it just documents High School Musical. And High School Musical was my son, my youngest son, and this was our favorite show back in the early 2000s, and we would watch it all the time. And I wanted to document that because when I think about High School Musical, I get nothing but good feelings because I'm not kidding you guys, we would watch it probably every night. So I had these little stickers and I thought I would stick the stickers on there. This is a picture of my dog, and this is about a time when we went on a trip and we were missing him so bad that we just went and picked him up as soon as we got back in town, and he was filthy dirty. This is another one of those transparencies, and this is Niagara Falls. And so we just took a trip in 2012 to Niagara Falls, my youngest son and my husband and I. And so I'm going to fill this with lots of stuff from the Niagara Falls. Again, I've already documented Niagara Falls, but it's worthy of putting it in this journal. So this is an envelope from my grandpa on my dad's side, and I just love this envelope. It's tattered and torn, so I just did a wash. I washi taped it in, so a wash of paint, I washi taped it in, and then I'm going to stick stuff inside. I can journal here. I'll probably tape this up right here. So story and a picture. This is a picture that, or I'm sorry, a story about when we first moved into the house that we're in now, and how it just was such a breath of fresh air because we weren't under a lot of stress. We didn't have 2 house payments, and we had finally sold our old house. And I found this picture of these flowers that a coworker of mine, a very sweet lady, she gave me this flower as a housewarming gift when we moved into this house. And so I was like, okay, they need to go together. And here's the thing, I've been hanging on to this picture for 12 years now, and I just never had a place to put it because this wasn't worthy of like a whole scrapbook page, and it really just never, I just never could put it in a journal. But here is the perfect place for it. And then I have lots of spaces for more journaling. This is going to be all about Yellowstone because our trip to Yellowstone was life-changing. And so again, here's another one of those transparencies, and I just stapled it on here. And then I've got lots of things that I have already written down, but I'm going to add some photos and some other memories. I have an entire scrapbook about Yellowstone. So it has been documented very well in my life, but it was such an amazing thing that I'm going to put it in here because it brings me nothing but happiness. Stories, this was actually a photo before we went to a concert, and so I just inserted that. Didn't do a lot of writing on this, just said what it was. This one I posted on Instagram. So I posted this because it's so darn cute, but I put it in here for a couple of reasons. One, I just am obsessed with paper dolls, and this is 1978, so that's right around my time period. And the best part is that this paper doll, her name is Stella. And so I've told you guys before, my first name is actually not Gina. My first name is Stella. I'm named after my grandmother, and then I'm named after my mom. And so anything that has Stella on it, I just love. And so I stuck that in here, and then this cool little dress, oh my gosh, this is like something I would have worn in 1978. And so what I did was just put it on an envelope, and I can tuck journaling in here, I can journal here, and then it still is part of that. So that's kind of clever. This is an old tattered envelope that I can stick something in. Here's a story about my middle son that has nothing to do with the envelope, but that's okay. Story. This is a story that I have. Oh, here's some artwork. And so this is when I did this artwork. And I feel when I look at this and I think about, this was a Thanksgiving break, it just makes me feel good because I spent the entire time creating, and it was just one of those creative surges. Like I just had so much creativity, and once I got going, like I couldn't stop. I was just producing artwork left and right, and it wasn't journaling or anything. It was more like collage and painting, and it was just amazing. It was just so awesome to go through that process. And there was also a Harry Potter marathon on that weekend, and so I watched all of the Harry Potters from beginning to end. And by the time I got to the end, I was sad. Like I cried when I got to the end of Harry Potter because, I don't know, I just felt like, oh, it's over. Blank spaces. This is a fold out, so a little flap here with my doggy when my cat was actually bigger than my doggy. So this is when we brought him home the first time. And as I was documenting this, I was like, oh my gosh. So baby Grover, but then I was like, oh, baby Mac, that's my youngest son. And I look at how small he was. So that's just like, that's the only text I have. And that's really all I need. I'm going to tell this story with pictures. So another envelope again. This one is really falling apart, so I don't know how I'll do my journaling on this. It's kind of tattered, so I'm gonna have to do some taping. So this is a story. This is a story, and I don't need a lot of words to go with it. I love this journaling spot right here, but I haven't decided what I'm gonna put in here. Probably a list of some sort. And these guys I haven't done anything to. This over here is another envelope, and it's got this empty space for some journaling, a little bit of a story right here. So this is one of my favorite pictures of my daughter, and so I just wrote, it has nothing to do with the story. The story is about her, but it's not this picture, but it's her. And so I went ahead and combined both of these things because both of these things make me happy. This makes me happy, this makes me happy, and this makes me happy. This is a story that I don't have any pictures for yet, but I do know that I have some pictures for that. Here's just some random photo that I found of my middle son, and there were so many things that make me happy about this picture, like his cheeks and his little nose, and yeah, I just couldn't decide. But then I realized it was his pajamas, and because he called these his bear wolf pajamas, and actually it was the Tasmanian devil. Why he called that bear wolf, I can't even remember now, but it was Tasmanian devil, you know, from like Looney Tunes. And so these were his little jammies, and I can still remember how those feel, like that feeling of that fabric. Looking at this picture makes me think of that fabric, and I just feel like I can squeeze him and I can smell it, and it brings back nothing but good memories. So these were some pictures that I had, and I actually just printed these off on regular paper of my kiddos playing in the backyard. And again, I don't need a lot of documentation. I need to just say, here's what this was, because this lasted the whole summer, and it was so fun. So just a picture here. Room for more stories. So I have a cookie recipe, a chocolate chip cookie recipe that I know by heart. It's kind of my own recipe, like it's a version of a couple of different recipe, like Toll House cookie recipe, and I just kind of made my own play on it. And I love it. And I love making those cookies because they are so easy, because I've made them 100 million times. So I'm going to put a picture of the cookies because I know I have pictures of the cookies. I also will include the recipe in this. So that would be kind of cool. And I thought I could even put the recipe up over here. This one is a picture. So if you remember this one back here that I took of my daughter. So this picture right here, this piece goes with this right here. So this was just, I cut the photo in half. This was her standing next to this weird fan in this at this building in downtown Kansas City, and I just loved this. So I took this picture, once I cut it off, I turned it into a pocket because that picture just makes me happy. And then check this out. This is a picture of cereal. So in the United States, we have cereal around Halloween time. It's Boo Berry and Frankenberry and Count Chocula, and oh my gosh. So growing up, it's a General Mills cereal. Growing up, I loved this stuff. But my boys are addicted to it. And so every year around Halloween, we will go to Target and we will buy a box of each kind. And this was one year where they had some really cool cereal flavors. Like this was Yummy Mummy, and this was Fruit Brute, which I had never heard of those before. And I remember we got a box of each one, and it was just fun, because this is always fun to go get these. I also had some General Mills playing cards that I'd gotten at an estate sale somewhere. And so I took Blueberry, because growing up, that was my favorite. And I just put the picture on the back of the card, put a little bit of fabric through it, and tucked it in that pocket. So this is an envelope, and on the envelope I just put a piece of this wrapping paper, and this is the story of how I got that wrapping paper. And then I'll be able to put another story inside of here. So these guys are just waiting for me to add some more stuff too. I know I have photos of that, and I have photos of that. And then this last page, I just took one of my most favorite photos of my husband and I. So we did this one year for our Christmas cards, and I just actually turned this into a pocket. And so this card, I don't know, this card makes me happy. I love the colors. I love that it's about an astronaut. I love that it's Old Maid. And so I just tucked that in. Why? Because it makes me happy. Does it have anything to do with this? Absolutely not. But hey, if it makes me happy, I'm putting it in here. So that's what I have so far. And I'm not done. I'm going to go back and I'm going to add more stuff. I have plans of one day just sitting down with a box of my random old photos and just going through and just slapping the photos on here, or trying to find those stories that I know I have photos of and trying to match them up with photos. I could also just sit down one day with a pen and just start writing more favorite memories. I just want you guys to remember, as you start working in your journals, there are no rules. There are no rules in journaling. Your journal can be whatever you want it to be. You can add pictures, you can add stories, you can add artwork. You don't have to add artwork. You don't have to write in complete sentences. You don't have to have special markers or special stickers. It's whatever you want it to be. Okay, guys, I feel like I have been talking forever. I have to go check on my dinner that's in the oven, so I am going to let you go. I hope you are healthy. I hope you are happy. I hope you've been inspired today, and I hope you do something creative today. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.